Hello and welcome to another episode of Fintech Focus TV with me, Toby. Today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined all the way from Texas by Travis Schwab from Eventus Systems. Travis, how are you?
Good, Toby. Great to see you. Great to meet you.
And likewise. And look, it's a very, very interesting time. It's the company's been going through. You've attracted investment just in the right sort of phase for growth and all this side as well. Eventus is a business that's sort of creating a real global footprint. But for those who haven't heard of it, or those who have, give us a little bit more detail, if you would. Give us a bit of color to the background.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Appreciate that intro. Eventus Systems is a kind of 5-year-old plus technology company. We focus just right in the middle of reg tech, regulation technology. And what we help capital market firms do is trade surveillance and market risk. And so from exchanges to proprietary trading firms to brokers to FCMs to banks to regulators, we help them comply with their regulatory obligations as well as kind of implement best practices as it relates to anything regarding surveillance around trading and then how they manage their market risk in trading. And so we have 55, 60, close to 60 customers nowadays. Across the globe, across asset classes. And so we try to help them every day with a growing challenge of complying with regulations.
Which is always growing as well at the same time. You're going to be busy for a while. You mentioned,
yeah, that's right. It's markets never become less regulated, right? It always the continuum has been the same for a long time. So we're bullish on our addressable market. That's for sure.
And do you think all of this will only increase that, or will it like
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's always, if you look at flash crash, you look at the financial crisis, there were monster regulatory implications post the financial crisis with Dodd-Frank and MiFID II, and you just think of these really large regulatory initiatives. I don't think it's going to be quite the same post this pandemic, but there will absolutely be another review. You've had a lot of firms making a lot of money during this time, and there's always a reckoning, whether it's valid or not, after this kind of fervor is over. And so you'll want to, and we talk to our customers and prospects all the time, is you want to make sure when you're running your businesses during these times that you're actually thinking about the post-crisis period as compared to just responding to the post-crisis period. And so I think that's really critical for companies to be doing that now as compared to in a year from now, and they have to explain why they didn't follow their risk limits at the time. And so those are just those nuances that you want to make sure you're being hopefully a little bit more offensive than playing pure defense.
Yeah, absolutely. You also mentioned and touched upon the sort of multi-asset aspect to what you're doing. Probably one of the sort of fastest growing and interesting areas, and I know you've been expanding into it, is the digital asset space. Tell us about what you're doing in that area.
Yeah, we're really excited about that space, and I just as just kind of aside, is I've been in this business 25 years, and rarely do you get the opportunity to watch market structure happen really before your eyes. And so I think we're in a really interesting time period in the capital market space, watching this digital asset and blockchain technology try to take hold. So we're very bullish on the asset class. We just did a press release today announcing working with Gemini, a major digital asset venue. So we're very excited about that. We got into this asset class at least a couple of years ago, and really tried to establish a footprint across market centers, in digital asset space. And we think, there is this flood of marketplaces that you can trade these assets on, 300-400, depending on, what number you're looking at. I think it's what we see is there's going to be a group of that wants to attract institutional investment, and they need tools like us, right? Just the institutional investors are not going to come to these marketplaces unless there are the controls, transparency, safety mechanisms that they have in other asset classes. And so
Absolutely.
we think we're really well positioned to hopefully capture, keep capturing a good amount of that marketplace.
And that marketplace has been something which has come up time after time on these Fintech Focus TVs that we've been running over the last few months. It seems like there's traction again in the space. I mean, digital exchanges and crypto and the blockchain world has been sort of an absolute roller coaster over the last four years or so that we've been sort of tracking and looking at the space, and there's been a number of false dawns. What's your take on what it looks like? Is this the time when we actually see the adoption? Is this the cloud moment we had a few years back? Is it?
Yeah, there's peaks and troughs in adoption rates, really always, right? It doesn't matter if it's digital assets or, even back when I was at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I worked at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange in the 90s. And, we were just starting to move some contracts over to Globex, the electronic trading platform at the time. And there was this magical number, and it was always around 30%, that once, you kind of go the roller coaster up to 30%. Once you got to 30%, then it jumped to like 60 or 100%. And so adoption. And so I think blockchain and digital assets are going through that roller coaster, and they're not quite there to that kind of magical, maybe it's 30% adoption, whatever it is. They're not there yet. But I think once you have that statistically significant adoption, then it'll go very quickly once you establish that baseline. So I think that baseline is still being established. There's been fits and starts, but the trend is definitely moving in the right direction for that asset class.
Right way. Interesting.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about you in the business at the moment is there's been no let up. I mean, look, we spoke about this beforehand, and it's been the theme of all of these shows that we've done. Is there is very clearly a sort of massive humanitarian issue on the background, an economic issue in the background to all this. The financial markets and capital markets have reacted very strongly. With 2008 it being the villain of the piece, this time it's probably been the hero and being robust all the way through. That's echoed in your business. Look, while some businesses there haven't quite grasped the mantle. Tell us a bit about the scalability and how you guys have navigated that, because I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. We consider ourselves very fortunate that, to be selling into, exactly what you're saying, a group of customers and clients that by and large have done extraordinarily well during this time, right? So volume and volatility go up. Almost everyone likes that when volume and volatility go up, right? It just throughout the chain, the value chain, everyone benefits when volume and volatility go up. You do have, obviously, there's more protections that you need to make sure that, the retail side is not blowing themselves up and shooting themselves in the foot. But in general, all the constituent parts of our marketplace benefit when volume and volatility go up. And so we've had the fortune of closing an A round, really right before this crisis hit. And so we've, been able to grow, right? We had very clear plans to keep growing aggressively, and we've been trying to execute that. And we hit kind of early February with basically a dozen people, and now we're approaching 30 over the course of the last 6 months. And so we're dealing with our really good problems to have: is how do you scale this business? How do you go attack new marketplaces? How do you go and engage clients and prospects virtually? And so those are the types of challenges that we've tried to address. And it's been very natural for us because we've always been a distributed company. And so we've worked remotely effectively since we started. And so the tools, Slack and Zoom and everything else that people are using every day, and then their vernacular, we've been using for 4 and 5 years. And so I wouldn't say this has been a smooth transition for us, but it's not been disruptive compared to a lot of other a lot of other industries and even some of our clients. And so we've been able to dig in, hire a bunch of people, try to, alter the way or enhance the way we've been hiring people virtually, right? I've never had to really deal with hiring 100% virtually. And so that's caused kind of a real review over how we hire virtually. And I think it's been an interesting and kind of iterative process.
Tell us some of the sort of learns that you've had from that, because it is a completely new challenge, isn't it? And hiring is such an important part of it, and particularly when you're a dozen strong and then suddenly you're pushing 30. That's tripling the size of the business in a time with one of the most everyone will always say that your human capital is the most important part of your organisation. When you haven't met them and have the whites of their eyes conversations and all this sort of stuff, press the flesh. What sort of learns have you had to make it successful? Because it sounds like it's been just that, right?
Yeah, and I love how you say the whites of their eyes, because that is, I put a lot of stock in that. You put a lot of stock, outside of what's, what someone has on the piece of paper is important, and you kind of get a feel for, but it's that engagement, that talking, that understanding how they view what they want to do, what they're motivated by, how they're feeling like they're accomplishing things. And that's just, it's hard to get that virtually sometimes, right? You can talk, I know you're probably the same way as I am. You have these meetings constantly. You're on video constantly throughout the course of the day. And that helps a ton, but you still, how do you really dig into how someone can be successful at a new opportunity? And so we've really taken to the idea that we have to be able to do kind of that second, third rung of due diligence, digging into mutual contacts, either LinkedIn or whatever social platform or network that you have, but really going out and finding mutual contacts that we can, talk to without that, prospect or applicant knowing, so that we can really dig in and see, is this a right fit? Because we're just, as you've created businesses. Startups aren't for everything, or junior, young companies aren't for everyone. And so you want to make sure that there is a mindset alignment, a cultural alignment, and everything else. And it's hard to get that through just talking to someone on a Zoom call. So we really spend as much time as we can. And we will throw people out as far as the candidate list if we can't find that validation, that network connection to where we can talk to.
So that's a bold move, right? So you've got someone there who on paper you love, you've spoken to them, you've done the interviews, you've gone through it, everything's been fine, but you can't find someone there who can be an independent validator for that person's work. That's something you're prepared to and happy to walk away from.
Yeah, we've done that. They'll tick every box except for the bottom one, and that bottom one, we're not trying to put so much weight on any individual box, but it's critical. And we almost made a fairly substantial, not mistake, but we were trying to kind of early on, when we were trying to grow our team, we just couldn't find, we were trying to hire kind of a small group. We couldn't find enough, those mutual connections. And, we were thinking, okay, we'll use whatever we found up to this point and move forward. Well, subsequently we ended up not making that. And it was a positive miss is the way I would put it. And that really then just kind of got me, reinforced the fact that we have to be able to validate what people are telling us. We have to be able to dig in to the backgrounds a little deeper and just understand, get a wider picture for these candidates, for us to, for them to be successful and for us to have a successful process.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that there's one of the most costly mistakes you can make is to, particularly at that sort of size, is to bring the wrong people in at that sort of time, and it's an expensive way of doing it, right?
It is. We're not going to get 100% hit rate. That's kind of ridiculous to think about. But every person here has a lot of hats that they wear. We're running really fast. We're trying to do things the right way. And it's really costly if we make the mistake on hiring. So I'd rather not hire and walk away unless we feel like we have, really the right candidate.
You mentioned something interesting there as well about, which was the sort of culture and the fit culturally. I'm always intrigued in that in distributed teams because, growing a culture so often is about the sort of bonding and the office time and sort of working around people and sort of building up that sort of, for want of a better expression, the sort of locker room mentality of us against the world, particularly in a startup sort of group. You're now expanding overseas and across a sort of even more distributed team than ever before. How you and particularly when there's sort of probably 2/3 of your business that haven't met the other third, or any of the rest of them. Tell us how you've managed that and how that's been successful for you.
We don't know if it's successful yet, to be honest with you. Since it's so
I have a feeling. I have a feeling it will be.
Well, no, I appreciate that confidence. I hope, we'll see. But for me, our approach since we started has been to hire people with an owner mentality and hire adults. And I use that term in a way that we don't need to have a locker room to foster the goal, right? It's just, I establish very clear goals and then we go out and do it. And that's, we hire adults, and every person that walks in the door is an owner of this company, right? Everyone has skin in the game. And so you're expected to act like an owner. And so I then treat everyone like that. This is a part of their business. This is their business, and they need to make decisions based off that fact. And, I just hammer that point every day. This is when someone asks me what can I take time off or should I spend money on this? I go, this is your business. Would you do this? I mean, this is your business. So I'm asking you as an owner, would you do what you just asked me to do? And that is how I basically, my response to almost all these questions is you're an owner, act like an owner. And that's, when I'll do the final interview for everyone that we talk about. And I just, it's not me really interviewing. I want people to understand that's the culture that they're coming into. I don't care about the days you're taking off. I don't care about if you want to go to the dry cleaner or get groceries during the middle of the day. Are you acting like an owner of this company? Because that's what you will be. And so that's what we talk about. And that's how, we try to, I reinforce that as much as I can. And so we have, we have virtual get-togethers every other week. We, every new hire, I'll spend at least a half hour with every other month. And the executive team will reach out and just outside of their direct managers, talk to people online and see how they're doing and see, how it's working, how it's not working, because we're, almost everything we're doing is new, right? It's just, new processes, new procedures. How do we go from where we're at today to double or triple or quadruple that? And so I want people to think that way. So let's think that way. Let's act like, okay, we're 30 people today. If we go to 120, is what we're doing now going to work when we're 120 people? And so it's a bumpy, we talked about the bumpy process for digital assets. It's equally bumpy and a bloody iterative process that we're going through, right? We had this really tight knit group of a dozen people that were together for 5 years. So now I've, added 20 more people to that, close to that. How do I get all of that knowledge out of those 12 heads into those 30 heads? And then how do I make it so that the next 100 group can pull that new group of knowledge out? So it's interesting. It's a challenging challenging problem. It's an awesome problem, but it's a problem, and we're going through it right now.
Well, it's look, if you look at the classic sort of management playbook of that, it's you're there and you're giving people the responsibility and setting the parameters and giving the chance to succeed. But also, I think it comes down to people, and this is becoming more and more prevalent all the time, which is looking at what makes a great place to work. is that sort of ability to impact the the purpose of the business, the vision of the business.
Yeah.
And I think that communication you're talking there is about whether people are all around you or distributed. It's the same thing there about saying this is where we're going and what we're doing. And I think that's fascinating. I think it's a really interesting way to grow a business both here and abroad. And that expansion continues apace. You're moving into EMEA and Asia Pac with more force as well. What's driving that?
Yeah, really just opportunity. It's we've established, I would say, a strong presence in the States. We've had an APAC presence for about a year and a half or 2 years, and so we have a good half dozen kind of customers there, really across our client segments. So we've established just a toehold in APAC, and for EMEA, it's greenfield, right? So we now have some big clients. We've always had clients that have surveilled EMEA markets, right? So European marketplaces for quite some time, but having bodies and firms that are domiciled in Europe and really forcing us to broaden how we do our business is happening right now. So for us, it's just pure opportunity set that we're going after, and we have global customers that trade everywhere, and so we have to be able to handle the trading requirements or the surveillance requirements effectively everywhere. And so that's what we're going through right now.
What drives everything with it. Okay, and that sort of includes that we've spoken about the internal side of things and getting that right, but you're also sort of broadening out and signing some really interesting partnerships of late. And we've had Oliver on the show over at VoxMart in the past, which is exciting. Team up, which you're looking at recently. But tell us a little bit about your partnership model and what that means for the future of the business.
Yeah, we love the indirect sales channel. We love the partnership model, and we've it's always a challenge to make it that efficacious or that successful, right? You just don't get a lot of direct sales from the indirect sales channel, or at least we haven't. Maybe we just are horrible at it, but we've tried to do it for years. And so we're trying to find the right partners that not just fit the kind of the gaps and that our clients are looking to fit from a wider offering, but how do they fit with us culturally? Not, it's the same almost interview process that we do when we're trying to bring people internal as to try to find the right partners. And I think we really had the fortune of finding Oliver and VoxMart, and the surveillance space, kind of the broader space within capital markets, is kind of two sides. Basically, there's a communication side and there's the trade side. And some firms, some of our competitors, try to offer the whole package. We view that not to be very successful, because these are really two different challenges or two different types of data sets and two different ways of looking at things. And it's hard enough to be really good at trade surveillance. And so we think we're great at that, and we continue to be great. And we, every client we have is a referenceable client because we focus, we don't compete with them, but we can't be great at everything. You have to say no, you can't do everything. And so we want to find those partners to help us to make it easier on our clients, whether that's an integration, whether that's making the two products better, the 1 + 1 = 3, or whatever analogy you want to do or metaphor you want to use. And so I think it's, there's a general trend on Wall Street to be able to synthesize these two worlds, and it's needed, right? You want as much context around these activities as you can, and so you want to synthesize the communication side and the trade side, and we're trying to find the best way to do that. And we think that is through strategic partnerships with firms like VoxMart.
Which is and it's those strategic partnerships are just that sort of ability to turbocharge businesses, and it works for both parties, right? And gives the opportunity there to provide that sort of much. I think this is a growing trend in the market, that much more collaborative solution to the end user, and that's the customer focused piece. To me, has been the catalyst for the vast majority of businesses that, as you have, through this sort of period, have actually accelerated.
I think that's right. I think you can't, if you're honest with yourself, as a company. You just, you can't be great at everything. Like I don't know why, you know, we get asked to do something new every day, and we have to say no because we can't do everything, and we can't do it to the level that they actually want us to. And so we tell those clients or prospects, you don't want us to do whatever, right? You don't want us to do comms surveillance because we're going to suck at comms surveillance. Let us work with the best out there, and we will make it as smooth as possible so that those systems are talking to each other, informing each other, helping each other, and we'll try to smooth out the, you know, the legal terms and everything else, right? We'll try to make, you know, you can just use VoxSmart's paper, for instance, and then bring us in. So we'll try to do everything on the behind the scenes to make it as smooth as possible. But you want the best at each of these fields because you're exposed, you have risk. Help us, you know. So we're trying to, you know, if you do things wrong in the spaces that we're in, it can be really bad, right? These are critical functions. People have personal liability if they get this stuff wrong. And so you want to be, and you want to align yourselves with really, really good firms. And if you're trying to get one size fits all or one solution for it all, it's going to fail. And so that's why we just think, exactly to your point, that partnership, trying to do everything on the backside and finding those partnerships of firms that are the best in their fields so that we can try to give them the best solution without trying to over engineer something ourselves. That's really the goal.
Which is the classic mistake that so many businesses tend to go down, isn't it? It's like saying, right, look, the demand's there, the customers are there, let's go out and run outside of our lane. And as soon as they do sort of run outside their lane, they end up sort of, you know, with egg on their face. So I think it's a really intelligent strategy to say that let's get the right suite and partner and grow together. I think it's a classic sort of route forward.
We try, you know, clients, you know, still we're like, yeah, but we want to, you know, everyone, you pay for what you get, right? The analogy is the same everywhere, whether it's building a house or buying clothes or buying trade surveillance systems. You pay for what you get, or you get for what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
And if you're trying to shortchange yourselves on these systems, it's going to impact your business. And so that's just that, you know, when we first started, we had to just do everything, right, to get those first clients in the door, and we still have a lot of those first clients. And thankfully, we've kept, you know, trying to narrow and be really great at just a couple things. And I think that's at least right now that has proved to be the direction that has worked for us so far. You know, we'll see if it continues, but right now we're trying to stay in our lane as much as we can.
Good man, good man. Speaking of lane and expertise, look, I think there's a really interesting area that you sort of are gaining a sort of real momentum around, which is the sort of whole world of machine learning. It's been it's been one of the most talked about and hyped areas again, alongside, you know, where we started the conversation of blockchain and digital exchanges,
right,
etc.
Right. So let's just slap those on your deck. And you know, blockchain and AI, you have $50 million.
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. That's where the funding came from, clearly. But,
exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your expertise around machine learning and what that means for you and your clients.
Yeah, it's been an interesting process for us. We, you know, the DNA of the firm spun out of a proprietary trading firm, you know, basically 5-6 years ago. And that proprietary trading firm started to use machine learning in 2000 to calculate equity prices and to trade against. And it was a successful firm. So every one of us has had a long, actually, history with these types of technologies. But when we started this firm, we purposely didn't go into that space because we didn't see the use case. And that, I think that there explains our entire approach. How are these technologies best used, right? We have a product or a platform we call Validus, and we have multiple technologies that we use for different aspects of the business. And we think of, you know, machine learning as one of those technology stacks, and you want to try to find the best use case for this technology, and not just say, all right, well, let's use AI to toast bread. It doesn't work very well, right? So how, several years ago, as we're starting to, look at, some different use cases, we thought, all right, we're going to start using machine learning on what we would call the alert resolution side. So these systems, you think about what our system does. It generates alerts on the types of activities that you think you need to be surveilling for. Once those alerts are generated, what do you do with it, right? You have to investigate it, you have to resolve it, remediate it, whatever you're going to do. On the generation side, we still feel like there's a lot of legs on the kind of procedural approach, a lot of the parameter approaches, because there is real explainability in that approach. And that's really one of the challenges with our types of technology is when you get examined by a regulator in exchange, it's always happening in arrears, and it can be quite some time in arrears. And so they'll come in and ask you what were you doing in May of 2018, and why did this alert generate, and why did you take these activities? And if you can't explain those aspects of that alert, you're going to be in serious trouble. And machine learning has a challenge there of explainability and auditability. And so for us, it is on the generation side, we still use the procedural approach, but we think there's and we've seen this real nice opportunity to use machine learning to train the models to kind of close out the types of alerts that don't need, deep investigation. And so for us, it's about really trying to bubble up the most actionable alerts for our clients, because they get inundated. Could be tens of thousands of alerts potentially on a daily basis if they really are trying to widen the net and catch all types of activity. And so what that machine learning does, we might generate 50,000 alerts, but the machine learning will take that down to 40 alerts that really need to be looked at. We think we're trying to marry, again, the best of what these technologies do really well. There's other applications for machine learning that we've been experimenting with, trading profiles and all sorts of different things that we will be moving into and we're pretty deep into. But we think by marrying kind of these approaches as compared to just using machine learning for everything, we give the explainability, give the tuning, give the ability for our customers to benefit from what these types of technologies offer.
So again, it's a very similar theme that sort of runs through everything that you've been saying there, which is to put the customer at the center of what you're trying to do and give them the maximum value from what you can deliver to them by genuinely focusing on things that you can be great at.
These clients have a real challenge, right? I mean, we talked about this. Regulations don't go down, right? They're only going up, and asset classes only move in one direction. They only move in more regulations, right? And normally the governance bodies and compliance budgets don't go up dramatically. Now they have ticked up as required, but they're pretty tight budgets, and the human element they've never given enough of the human side of things. And so they really need to lean on technology to help them through these challenges. And so everything we do is sitting down with them and saying, okay, all right, you have that, MiFID 2, you have to focus on, these 50 things. Let's figure out how to do this the best way. Let's figure out how to help you do your job more efficiently and as least risky as possible to make sure you're protecting yourself and the firm. And so we do that every single day with our clients. And, I think that's why every single client is referenceable, because we spend that time, we support them that way, we train them that way. These are complex problems. And if you're not good at it, you can really expose them to, some bad situations. And so we take it personally. We've sat in those seats. I was a CCO. My President Jeff Bell was a CCO. Our global head of regulatory affairs was a CCO. We've sat in the seats. We know the bullseye on their backs. And so it's personal to us because there is personal responsibility. And so hopefully that, I think that fervor and zeal comes into the product, and they feel that when we engage with them every day.
Absolutely. I think that sort of ability to genuinely understand the customer's footprint, where that comes from, has been the catalyst to the vast majority of companies that have done really well as far as I'm concerned. I said at the outset, just before we started this, I said one thing to you that half an hour would go incredibly quickly. It seems like we've been talking for 2 minutes. So we've overrun incredibly already. But I want to finish off by saying that you've mentioned there a load of referenceable clients. The growth of the business, is going to continue, inevitably across all areas of the world. If people are tuning in and watching this at the moment, who should be speaking to you, and how should they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Toby. I mean, we deal with really anyone on the trading aspect of side, of the equation. So whether that's the corporate buy side, energy trader hedging their oil exposure, all the way down to the regulator examining the exchange. Every one of those constituents, can use our type of technology. And so we have clients in every one of those segments. We know what we're talking about. And so they can, reach out that way. It's info@eventussystems.com, or email me directly, travis@eventussystems.com. I'm happy to get you in front of the right folks. But we try to know what we're talking about. We try to make the experience working with the vendor really as straightforward and positive as we can. And so and you can talk to every one of our clients. We're happy to put you in touch with them. So excited to talk to anyone that wants to talk about it.
I'm sure they'll be queuing up for this. And look, I've absolutely loved this. It's exactly the sort of company I love hearing about. I love hearing about this companies that have taken such a negative and thrive through it. And you guys are absolutely nailing that. So very, very, very best of luck with everything you're doing at the moment. I love the story, and I'm looking forward to seeing it grow and grow and grow. Travis, thanks so much for joining us.
Toby, really, really appreciate the opportunity. I love what you guys are doing at Harrington as well. So really, it's an honor for us to talk to you. So appreciate it.
Great having you on. Thanks for you all for watching. We'll see you soon on another episode of Fintech Focus TV. Thanks a lot. Cheers.